All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's, let me close all these crazy things on my screen. Welcome to today's lunch break. This lunch break happens, they've been happening about every 2 to 3 weeks with the crazy market. It's been about 3 weeks since I've seen you all. So welcome, I'm Becky Jean Thompson. I am a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Realty. We have Kimberly Placek on today. She is a loan officer with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. I'm gonna just shoot up her information so that in the event that you have any questions, you can reach right out to her. Let me share my screen. Kimberly, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Hello to all the Facebook
good.
people out there.
Yep, this is Kimberly's information. So yeah, she's sharing her lunch hour with us today, and we don't get much time to break in this market, so we appreciate her very much.
My pleasure.
So today we're going to be talking about renovation loans, and there's a lot surrounding a renovation loan. So we have lots of questions for Kimberly today. She's going to share her expertise with us, and she has some. We have a laundry list, so we're gonna get started.
It's definitely one of those topics that's coming up more and more, especially even just with the TV shows and all the home improvement things that are going on. People are getting more and more interested in it, so it's definitely becoming more popular.
Yes, all those HGTV lovers.
Yes.
Yep. So in the simplest terms, what is a reno loan?
So a renovation loan allows a home buyer or homeowner to make repairs and upgrades to their home and finance those costs. So they're financing them into their loan amount, and the appraised value is based on the future value of the property after these repairs are done. So it does take into consideration what that value is going to be to make sure that there's sufficient equity in the property. But, it's always hard, to save. That's probably one of the hardest things that we find buyers to do, is to have the cash. So with renovation loans, you don't have to have the cash out of pocket. You can finance it if you have the equity and take advantage of that, especially with these low rates.
Right. And is a renovation loan more costly?
It can have a little bit more cost involved to it, but there's the benefits outweigh the costs. There are a little bit more, there's more inspections involved with it. Depending on the loan, you could have a fee inspector go out. So it's an extra inspector that you would have to look at the property and determine what needs to be done. There might be a little bit additional title work to be done. So overall, there could be a little bit more cost, but again, the benefits to the loan definitely outweigh that cost.
Yes. So I find a home, I know that I want to get a renovation loan. Where do I begin?
So just like anyone buying a home out there, is the first step is you want to go through the pre-approval process. That is crucial. And it's something that, you and I say all the time is get pre-approved, make sure you're talking to, a reputable lender, a licensed loan officer to get that. So you're going to go through that same process, because every loan starts out with the basics, the pre-approval. They're going to look at credit, income, assets, what type of program you're going to be doing, because there are several types of renovation loans. Most popular FHA 203K and the Fannie Mae Home Style. So you're going to go through that same process to determine what product you qualify for, what your maximum purchase price is allowed, and then you determine if the rehab loan is a good fit for you, and it gets added as part of that product. So first and foremost, like we always say, definitely get out there and get pre-approved so you know your numbers and you know what to expect and are comfortable and then looking at properties that fit that range.
So the buyer has the pre-approval. They go out with their agent, they say, this could be the house, now what?
Yeah. So one of the first things they're going to want to do is get a contractor out there. Because the whole rehab loan is, how much do we need? How much is it going to cost to make the adjustments that we want? Now, sometimes you can have repairs that are needed or required by the lender, things that might refer to safety or structural integrity of the property. So those things might come into play, but then there also might be the fun items that you want to update. You want to update, a kitchen. So if you have the funds to do that, you're going to look into those repairs as well. But you want to get a contractor out there first and foremost. So you want to have somebody that you've already have lined up that you're comfortable with. Maybe go through the interview process with a few. So when you find that property, you get them out there right away, because they can advise a checklist of things that need to be done and create a invoice. So some loans require a fee inspector to go out and determine, things that the loan may require, the lender may require first. And then you can add in your fund items after that, or some upgrades and things like that. So the first thing is getting contractors and inspectors out there. So that's going to really guide you to know how much money you're going to need up front, and will you have any extras for any additional upgrades that you want.
Right, for the play items, right? For those items, the likes, the wants.
Yes. So a lot of times people think it might only be for items that are needed for for the lender to accommodate the investor or the lender guidelines. But it can be used to just do upgrades too. So if the house is, fine, will pass the regular appraisal with no conditions, then you can use that rehab loan solely to upgrade the kitchen, upgrade bathrooms, things like that. Again, as long as the appraised value is there, you can use those for that as well. So sometimes they think it's just to get it up to where we need to be, but it can be both.
And not to sort of jump around, but when it comes to the appraisal, there'll be two appraisals, right?
Typically there's one, and it's done up front. So there's usually an initial appraisal to determine the value based on the items that you want. So that's when we're going to get the contractor out there right away, determine what is going to be done to the property, make sure that the loan amount can cover that. And then that information is going to get sent to an appraiser to do the future value based on those upgrades and repairs being done. At the end, there are final inspections to make sure all that work is completed. But that information is done up front to make sure that equity is there, because sometimes things that are, could be really costly might not always increase the value as much as what they cost to repair. And that can get a little tricky. So again, upfront, contractor upfront, figuring out that punch list and getting that over to your lender so they can send the information to an appraiser.
Yeah, and we talk a lot, or I talk a lot to sellers about doing upgrades and things, and some, are strictly for your own purposes and may not get that return on investment.
Yes, I'm sure you have conversations like that a lot, and especially now where things are getting a little more costly. So you really have to make sure that everybody's staying within budget.
So some common lender repairs that you see.
So a lot of the repairs that the lender, depending on the type of loan the investor will require, are a lot of like deferred maintenance issues. Health and safety are always two major things that the lenders or the investors are mostly concerned with. And you have certain things with FHA products, like the FHA 203K will have a little bit different guidelines than the conventional loans. But really, safety and health issues first. And then if you have any of those wants after that for updating, then you can go ahead and take a look at that. But safety and health first. So making sure the property is structurally sound and that there's not going to be any health or safety issues.
Yep. So I want to use a contractor, Kimberly, but I'm really handy. So I'm thinking I'm just going to go out. I'm not really, but we're pretending. So I'm going to go out and, I'm going to do some of the work myself. Can I do that?
Not really. And I think that's, one of the big things that happens too, is because there are a lot of people that are handy or have family members in the trades or family members that are handy, but really they want licensed, independent, insured contractors. And they do look at that information. They want their license and possibly looking for some resumes or references in their insurance. So they want independent because they want to make sure the work is done not only properly, that they're licensed, but in a timely manner. So a lot of times you might be handy and you might want to work at it over time, but there might be some time constraints. So they want someone's main focus to do that. So even if you are handy, unfortunately on very case by case, sometimes exceptions are made, but in general, no, they're going to want to have an independent contractor out there to do the work.
And those contractors, when do they get paid?
So they're going to get paid depending on the type of work that's done and the scope of work. They get paid through the loan amount. So you, once something is completed, anything else, they're going to have inspections on it, and there's periodic draws that will come after it, depending on what they feel the scope of work is. So the checks get issued, the attorney handles that and draws from the loan and hands them out to the contractor and the buyers that they have to sign. But they're going to have work done. They might have a 2-draw process, a 3-draw, but that is all done up front of how many draws off the loan they will allow. So that's going to be negotiated with your lender depending on the type of work.
Okay. So it's done
So
all
it's
ahead
all
of
into the
time.
loan. So the buyer's it's not ever just given to them. It's actually done on the loan throughout the process.
Gotcha. They decide they want the house, the construction begins. At what point? At what point does that construction process begin?
The construction is going to start after they close, because we want to make sure everything is done up front. We have all the the work orders from the contractor. We've got the appraised value. We know the loan's approved, all the buyer's credit, income, and assets review. Then when the loan closes, the contractors can begin the work.
Do they have a certain time frame to complete that work?
Sometimes they, depending on the loan, they can, and usually they want to have everything done within about 6 months, again, depending on the scope. So sometimes things can change, but they want it to, to begin and probably close within that 6 months. Sometimes it can have less time if it's not, again, the scope of work, if it's not a lot that needs to get done. But it's not, they don't want it to go on too
forever.
I'm sure the buyers want to get in there too and have their house back to normal with all the upgrades and everything like that. So everybody wants it as soon as possible.
Right. And to close on the home, does it take longer with a renovation loan, or is it a normal process, a normal timeline?
It can take longer, really depending on, the contractor and, things that need to get done. So a lot of other, you have the regular underwriting process of the loan, just like any other loan that you're going to do. But now you have this added step of these, the contractors going out and the appraisal, and sometimes they need to go, work together where there might need to have some changes done to the work and the appraiser. So that, depending on how long all that takes, it can add a little time. Sometimes they can be done in the normal amount of time that it takes to, do a loan, which is average, 6 to 8 weeks. But because of those extra layers and everybody wanting to do everything right and accurate up front, it can take a little bit of extra time just to make sure everybody does their due diligence.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And as a buyer, you want things to be done right. So
right. Yep. And again, especially on some of those want items, pricing and things can vary, throughout the process. So it's everybody just staying in constant communication to make sure that it's getting done properly and that we're staying within the time frame.
Absolutely.
And the costs.
Speaking of cost, what if I don't use all of the money allotted to me?
So if you don't use the money, sometimes you can, if there's something else that maybe you had wanted but we weren't sure of, you could always, see if that's something that you could possibly do now. Or they will make a not a deposit, but they will credit the loan, apply it to as a principal payment to the loan amount. So either one can be done depending on how much is left over and what is needed. If you had some other items that were kind of unplay, because you never know anytime you do any type of construction if if you're going to find any surprises.
Sure.
So there always is a little bit of a reserve to make sure that there are no surprises, and if you have anything left over, you can always request for something else, or it can go back as a principal payment because you've already closed the loan. The loan's already closed.
And as a homeowner,
so it's not lost.
Right. And as a homeowner, there are usually a little bit of a surprise. You start one project and then something else may come up.
Yep. Something always leads to something else. That's for sure.
It's life.
Yes.
So I start a project and something else turns into something else, right? The domino effect. What if I need more money as a buyer? Is that a possibility?
Well, it depends on, that's why they try to, in the beginning, they're going to put a reserve account. So
Sure.
again, for these things, so you're pretty much very detailed with that initial contractors, and the work order is very detailed, but the lenders know that things like this happen. So they will put a reserve account aside for those type of items. So typically, typically it stays within that. There could be exceptions to anything, but they kind of have that account set up to make sure that if there's anything that comes up, that hopefully it can be resolved with just that left over in the loan and they don't have to make any changes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to be honest, I've never known about the reserve amount. Mm-hmm. So nothing's ever come up.
Yeah.
Or I've never known that anything came up. So
it's not, that's one of the things too, when buyers get pre-approved, if they have an amount, say it's, 250,000, it doesn't necessarily mean if they find a home for 200 that they have a true 50,000 to work with all the way, because they are going to make sure that they don't want to run into any issues that they can't resolve. So there will be a reserve account. So you don't have dollar for dollar, but that's where the renovation specialist is going to come in. And that's one great thing about Guaranteed Rate of Fin is part of my team. I actually have a renovation specialist that's on my team. Her name is Ellen, and she's fantastic. As you can see, as we're talking, there's a lot of intricate parts to this. So having a specialist on your team that this is what their focus is, and they know, how the process works, it is really a great tool to have on my team. It's a real benefit. So you want to work with, someone that has a renovation specialist that knows the process.
Right. And that's her specialty.
Yes. Yep.
You are a lucky lady.
I am. I know it. And she's great. So yes, I'm definitely lucky.
Do you have anything that you want to share with us? You've been in the business for years and years. Do you have anything that you want to share with us about a renovation loan, or about Guaranteed Rate Affinity, anything to share with the viewers? Anyone else on your team?
So I do have a team that works with me, which is great, because that means multiple people, are assisting through that loan through the whole process. And renovation loans are unique and they have a lot of intricacies to them. So having that specialist, I have to say, hands down, is one of the greatest things. To be able to turn to that person and have them step in and help and know it, because may not do these type of loans all the time. Most of the time they're not frequent, but if you have someone that does them all the time, that's huge. So getting the pre-approved up front, and then we say it and we sound like broken records, and working with buyers all the time, but really getting your team up front, having an agent like yourself that's knowledgeable and can assist, working with a lender that has renovation specialists, getting you have an attorney, getting a contractor, that is going to make this whole process much easier. Is getting that team. You don't want to get too far into the process and then try to start, finding putting the pieces together at that point. So getting your team up front, working with knowledgeable people to help, and going into the houses that way, because then you're more prepared. You've already had the conversations. You know what to expect. It can be a very, especially in this market, a buyer can be very stressful. There's multiple offers. You don't, what to do. You don't want to add this layer to it. So get your team up front, have the conversations, do your due diligence. So that way, when something comes up, everyone's a phone call away. Everybody knows, what's going on and what they're looking to do. It can be really, really helpful.
Right. And they know you and you know them. And you don't feel rushed having to choose someone because it's the last hour, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's the last hour on a Sunday. It just happens that way. And we're available. So yeah, but having those conversations ahead of time, because then you've got the trust built. You're confident that they're going to have the answers for you when you need them, and you can move forward quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly
And
on that.
even not even doing a renovation loan, having your team of, an agent and your lender and getting that all up front, it helps the process and it helps the stress, towards the end, making that much easier.
It does.
Always.
It does. Absolutely. That is all I have. This has been the quickest, but it's because we were prepared. See what happens when you have a team?
You just need
to go.
Now, there is a lot to the rehab loans. So it's really can be unique to every situation. So when a specific house is going to have its own things involved, so it's really hard to really get too specific because every scenario is going to be different. But if you have your pre-approval and your amount that and it's also shopping below where you're pre-approved to make sure you have that room if that's your ideal situation. And as well with the market right now is it might be hard to find that perfect house of all the wants that you on your list, but if you could maybe make it what you wanted, it might open up a little bit more area, a little bit more houses, out there with such the inventory being the way it is.
Right. It's another avenue to travel and another option for you, given the market and given what's out there. And why not see? It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
It's worth a shot to see what this could do for you in this market because the rates are great. There's not a lot of inventory. There's a heck of a lot of buyers. And I don't think a lot of people know about renovation loans overall. So I think this is helpful and puts more tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, you're absolutely right with the renovation loans. And I think there might be some hesitancy that it's a lot of work, but if you have the people and we can't stress that enough, if you have that contacts to reach out to and walk through the house with you, it can make that process easier. But it is hard doing the last minute trying to figure out if you can make a rehab loan work. But if the buyer's struggling to find that perfect house with the updates and all of that, or a garage or 2-car garage, maybe it has a 1-car garage, well, are there possibilities for them?
Right. It's
Would
another
that make
option.
the search easier?
It's another option and something to visit and discuss. And like I said, I thought this was perfect because in this market you have to have options and to open that door and think outside the box. So
yes. Yeah.
So I think this was great. And I'm going to just flash up Kimberly's information one more time so that everyone, if they have any questions, they can reach out to her. I'm sorry. I'm like, there's so many buttons. Okay, here's Kimberly's info. And I'll also tag her in the video that I post on my page so that you can reach out to her if you have any questions about a renovation loan. She is truly always available. So if it is a Sunday and you're thinking about it over a Sunday dinner, sending her a message, she is likely to respond.
As are you.
Yep. This is true.
Yep.
All right,
no,
Kimberly.
That's what helps. So thank you so much. This was great. I hope everyone out there learned a little bit, or maybe is just open to exploring a rehab loan as a possibility.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Anytime. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for having your lunch with us. Bye.
Bye-bye.